I want to talk to you about something powerful. When you stop chasing and start attracting. See, there was a time in my life when I thought the louder I knocked, the more doors would open. I thought if I could just hustle harder, beg longer, prove myself a little more, I'd get what I wanted. People, opportunities, respect, love. But let me tell you something. The moment you stop chasing is the moment you start changing. You don't chase when you know your worth. You don't run after people who walk away from you. You don't fight to sit at tables where your voice ain't heard. Because you people, they don't move from a place of desperation. They move from a place of destiny. You feel me? Now I'm not saying you don't work hard. No, you grind. You build, but you don't beg. You don't force. You don't shrink yourself to fit into places that were never designed for your greatness in the first place. Because what's meant for you, what's truly for you, doesn't require you to lose yourself. It doesn't ask you to betray your peace. It doesn't make you question your dignity. When you become a you person, your energy shifts. You stop reaching, and you start radiating. People feel you before you even speak. You walk in the room and something changes, not because you're arrogant, but because you're aligned, and alignment, that's louder than words. See, the world teaches you to chase. Chase success, chase love, chase relevance, but that's how you end up lost. You people understand, you don't chase. You choose what you allow, you choose who gets access, you choose how you show up. And when you choose you, fully, unapologetically, you start to attract things that match your frequency, not because you begged for them, but because you became the kind of person they were looking for. That's the key. It's not about manipulating the mirror. It's about transforming the reflection. When you stop chasing, you make space for peace, space for purpose, space for people who don't just see you, but honor you. And that is the beginning of becoming high value. There's a difference between building walls and setting standards. See, when you start valuing yourself, really valuing yourself, you stop letting just anybody or anything have access to your spirit. You stop saying yes just to keep the peace and start saying no to protect your power. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. A high value person sets boundaries not because they're cold, not because they're trying to push people away, but because they finally realize not everyone is meant to walk with you. Not everyone is qualified to sit at your table, and that's not bitterness, that's clarity. I've learned that if you don't set boundaries, the world will set them for you. People will take what they can, your time, your energy, your kindness, and before you know it, you're running on empty, confused why you feel so resentful. That's what happens when you keep saying yes to everyone else and no to yourself. Boundaries are love in action. They're not about shutting people out. They're about protecting what's sacred inside you, your peace, your focus, your healing. You people understand this. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something that could grow you. You gotta know your capacity. You're not a machine. You're not built to be on all the time. You're not built to be available 24/7. You are a human being, not a product, and your value isn't in how much you do for others. It's in how true you are to yourself. There was a time I thought love meant sacrifice without limits, that real strength meant always being there for everybody else, even when I was falling apart. But I learned, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, say I love you, but I won't let you misuse me. I respect you, but I won't lower myself to meet you where you refuse to rise. That's boundary, that's self-respect, that's value, and you don't have to announce it. You don't have to defend it. Let your silence set the tone. Let your presence speak your standard, because the people who truly respect you won't be offended by your boundaries. They'll be inspired by them. When you begin setting those lines, firm but not bitter, clear but still kind, you begin to change the quality of your life. You stop operating in chaos and start flowing in purpose. You stop surviving and start choosing. And the moment you do that, you're not just protecting yourself, you're building something greater, a life rooted in self-worth. Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. The hardest promises to keep are the ones you make to yourself. We live in a world where people are quick to show up for others, but they don't show up for themselves. They'll cancel their own dreams to keep someone else's comfort intact. They'll break their own word just to avoid disappointing others. But a hive, you person understands. Your integrity starts at home. See, I used to be real good at making plans in the mirror. I'm gonna wake up at 6. I'm gonna start that book. I'm done with toxic people. And then, come morning, I'd snooze the alarm. I'd make excuses. I'd let the same people back in that I swore I was done with. And for a while, I thought it didn't matter. Thought no one saw it, but I saw it. And that matters more than anything. Because when you consistently break promises to yourself, you teach yourself not to trust you. You lose credibility with the person you spend every second of your life with. You want to know why you don't believe in your goals anymore. Why your confidence keeps slipping. It's not because you're not capable. It's because you've shown yourself that your word doesn't hold weight. And that cuts deeper than any outside rejection ever could. But when you start honoring your own word, even in small ways, everything changes. You said you'd go to the gym, go. You said you'd stop answering that late night text, stop. You said you'd spend 10 minutes on your dream today. Do it not for applause, not for approval, but because you said you would. That's where real self-respect is born, not in talk, but in follow through. And let me tell you, when you start doing what you say you're gonna do, your spirit takes notice. Your confidence grows, your energy shifts. People will start asking what changed, and you can look them dead in the eye and say, I did. I kept my word to me. You want to become hive, you start treating your own promises like sacred contracts. Because if you can't trust yourself, how are you going to ask the world to? You are your own foundation, and when that foundation is strong, when your yes means yes and your no means no, you stop relying on motivation and start moving with discipline. And discipline, that's where the elevation begins. You know, one of the biggest shifts that happens when you're becoming a hive, you person, is that you stop fearing solitude and you start embracing it. I'm not talking about loneliness. I'm talking about being alone and still being whole, being able to sit with yourself without distraction, without noise, and not feel empty. That's strength, that's peace. There was a time in my life where the silence scared me. I needed the TV on, the phone ringing, people around me, something to do, somewhere to be. Because when it got quiet, I had to face what I'd been running from. My doubts, my wounds, my truths. But growth doesn't happen in the crowd. Growth happens in the quiet, when it's just you, your thoughts, and God. See, now, you people know that solitude is a sacred space. That's where you realign. That's where you recharge. That's where you remember who you are. Without the titles, without the pressure, without the masks. When you're alone, there's no one to impress, no expectations to meet, just you, stripped down to your essence. And here's the thing, when you can be alone and still feel fulfilled, you become unshakable. You stop needing people just to feel seen. You stop clinging to relationships that drain you just to avoid being by yourself. You don't settle for company, you select it. You get real intentional with your space, your energy, your circle. Because you know your peace is too valuable to gamble with. Most people fill their calendar just to avoid facing their character. They confuse busyness with purpose, but the hive, you person, they make time for stillness. They know the quiet teaches you things the noise never will. That's where you hear your inner voice. That's where you meet your intuition. That's where you learn to be your own anchor. So don't fear the quiet. Don't rush to fill the space. Sit in it. Listen. Heal. Because when you master solitude, you carry a calm into the world that no chaos can shake. And people feel it. They may not understand it, but they respect it because peace like that, it's rare, and anything rare is valuable. There's something different about a person who speaks with purpose. You feel it before you even process the words. It's not about volume. It's not about having the best vocabulary or the smoothest delivery. It's about intention. It's about knowing why you're speaking and who you're trying to become when you do. I've seen people talk circles around the truth just to sound smart. I've seen folks who never stop talking, but never actually say anything. A value person. They don't waste words. When they speak, there's a weight to it. A presence, because their words aren't just coming from the mouth, they're coming from the soul. When you start becoming high, you stop talking to be liked. You stop saying what's easy just to keep the peace. You stop gossiping just to feel included. Instead, you start speaking life. You speak vision. You speak correction when it's needed, encouragement when it's missing, truth even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. I've been in rooms where people held the spotlight but said nothing that moved me, and I've been in rooms where someone said one quiet sentence, and it echoed in my spirit for years. That's the difference. When you speak from a place of clarity, of conviction, of self-awareness, you don't need to say much. Your words carry power, and let's talk about restraint, because it takes real maturity to not say everything you're thinking. High-value people know just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. Sometimes silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. Sometimes dignity looks like choosing not to match someone's disrespect. Sometimes power is in the pause. Purposeful speech is about alignment. Your words match your character. Your mouth and your morals are in sync. You speak with compassion, not ego, with strength, not spite. And that kind of language, it leaves an impact. People remember how you made them feel, not just what you said. So when you're stepping into your value, you become mindful of your message. You understand that your words plant seeds. And what you plant, you will harvest. You don't throw out curses and expect blessings. You don't speak down and expect to rise. You speak with direction. You speak with intention. You speak like your words are building the future you want to live in. And when you do that, people listen differently. They may not always agree with you, but they'll feel the truth in you. Because when your words come from a rooted place, from a place of integrity and growth, they hit different. They land and they last. So now you've heard it. The signs don't come with flashing lights. They don't announce themselves with trophies or titles. They show up in the quiet decisions, in the daily discipline, in the way you carry yourself when no one's clapping. Becoming a high-value person is not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than who you used to be. It's about rising from your excuses. It's about walking away from comfort and into calling. It's about becoming someone you're proud to be when the mirror looks back at you at midnight. You're not waiting to be chosen anymore. You're choosing yourself. You're not asking for permission. You're walking in purpose. You're not chasing approval. You're becoming the kind of person that attracts respect, not by force, but by presence. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more substance. So I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to be intentional, to rise above the crowd, to live with conviction, to walk with boundaries, to speak with purpose, to build in silence, to choose growth over comfort. You're not here by accident. You're here because there's something inside you calling you higher, something deeper, something greater. So stand on that, walk in that, speak from that, and when they ask who you are, you don't have to explain it. Let your life say it for you. You're becoming a high-value person, and the world better be ready. Thank you.